Thank you for coming out. I appreciate your time. We're here to learn about how to be ballot clerks. I'm looking around and see a lot of familiar faces, so this may be sort of review for most folks. Thank you for coming out. If there's something I miss and you've done this a lot, please remind me so that we can all learn from everybody who's done this in the past. So I'll give everybody just a bit of background. Actually, before I even start this, has everybody signed in? There is a form over there that is a FOIA opt-in to opt-out. It's kind of confusing. If you want your name and address withheld from FOIA requests for 90 days on either side of an election, please fill out that form. We did get a FOIA request last November for the name, cell phone number, and address of every poll worker. We were not happy about that. We dragged our feet for a little while and they ended up withdrawing the request. But if you fill that form out, then your name won't be included in those FOIA requests. So if that's something you're interested in, please do that. Also, if you haven't filled out your forms for direct deposit, there's a form over there for that as well. That being said, let's go on. For those of you who didn't work in the in the Democratic primary, just a brief overview of what's changed since last year. Norwalk has been redistricted. We used to have 13 districts. Now we have 14 districts. What used to be the A4 district is now the C3 district. Some of the lines have been redrawn. I only mention this is because it's going to probably lead to a little bit of voter disorientation. They might end up in the wrong precinct. This won't affect the ballot clerks, but I bring it up just as a point to note that this is a little different. One of the things that did come out of that is we do have an extra district now. If you've ever worked at Nathan Hale, you know that there's 2 precincts in the same building, in the same room. Well, now we're doing the same thing in West Rocks, but it's a slightly different configuration. So if you're working in West Rocks, you'll see a slightly different configuration than you're used to. We performed our canvass. The canvass is where the registrar is required to go through and clean up the voter rolls, making sure that nobody's moved out of town, people haven't voted in a long time, they become inactive. We do that after the major canvass after every presidential election. That was this one. So there were a lot of individuals that got canvassed. We may see a lot of folks showing up that want to be reactivated. Again, this doesn't affect the ballot clerks, but just so that you're aware of what's going on, in the environment. The big change is that we have new tabulators. Initially, we may not think, some of you may have seen them, be familiar with them. Initially, you may not think that would affect the ballot clerk's job, but with new tabulators come new ballots. So the ballots look a little bit different. With new ballots come new moderators' returns, and with new moderators' returns, there's a slight change to the ballot clerk's certificate. So there's a question before as to whether we're going to go over that. We will. So we'll go over that ballot clerk certificate pretty thoroughly, I hope. We have a new voter lookup interface that will not affect any of you, but it affects assistant registrars. And as you're probably all aware, we're using a poll worker portal to try and communicate with all of our team members to simplify that. If anyone has any questions about that, please, ask. Call us, send us an email. We want to make sure everybody's on that and can see their schedule and their class schedule, et cetera. So if there's no other general questions, I'll just go. Yeah, go ahead.
Are we allowed to know that URL?
Which URL?
For the poll worker portal?
Yeah. I mean, I didn't put it up here, but yeah, I can email it out or send it to you. I don't know it off the top.
It's very difficult to find.
Yeah, it is. It's not. It's like City of Tyler. Do you know that URL off the top of your head? I'll send it out to everybody again. So yeah, it's actually in my signature block. If you've ever received an email from me, there's all the little buttons at the bottom. One looks like a calendar. That's it. So, but yeah, I'll send it out to everyone.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to structure this little presentation sort of like before the polls open, what we do during the election, and then what happens after the polls. So before the polls open, please arrive by 5 o'clock. You're supposed to arrive by 5:15. Try and be there by 5 o'clock. There's a lot of little things that need doing, maybe not at your station, but at just sort of in general, setting up chain posts, getting a few things ready. Having an extra 15 minutes can just keep things a little calmer as we approach the polls opening. Yeah.
What about early voting?
Early voting depends on the day, half an hour before the polls open. So since early voting usually starts at 10, we get you there by 9:30, except the days where it's at 8, in which case you get there at 7:30. It'd be great. Right, so the first thing that will happen, I'm going to try not to cover early voting too much today. I'm going to try and stick to ballot clerks and what they do at the polling locations. If you are doing early voting, we'll cover that stuff during the early voting presentation. So the first thing we're going to do is get sworn in. Once we're sworn in, we'll sign the swearing in document. Just a point that swearing in is not the same as signing your timesheet. That's a different document. Swearing in is something that has to be put in the moderator's return by law. Your timesheet is just a completely different document. So you'll sign two things, your timesheet and the swearing in page in the moderator's return. Once you have been sworn in, you're going to get handed a plastic bin full of supplies. For those of you who've done it before, it's the same set of supplies. It's the little rubber fingers, a calculator, certain types of pens, everything that you'll need. We'll go over what you're using, over the course of this presentation. It comes in a plastic supplies container. Take it out, make yourself at home, and then of course at the end of the night, pack it all back up. We'll go over that as well. And one thing I'll just remind everybody is you do have to get the ballot clerk's certificate, and that will be in the checkers book and should be sitting to your left. So the people are getting checked in to your left, and that's the last page in the checkers book. They'll hand it to you, or you just have to go get it. Any questions about setup? The more
You set up when you get there, like with the table, what? You set up all this stuff.
Yeah. There's the checkers table, and then there's the ballot clerk's table, and you set up all your stuff there, right? So,
Yeah, just like every day.
right. And if you can, help out set up the day before, maybe not just your position, but
Set up,
yeah. The more you can help, maybe the day before, that'd be helpful. Email me if you can do that, and I'll put you on the list. That way, we can make sure to get you to a location that needs help setting up chains and making sure the tables and the privacy booths are all set up. A little bit of work on Monday afternoon when we're fresh, allows us to come in and not have to be kind of panicked on Tuesday morning at 5, because I'm usually pretty groggy at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Is school in session that day?
No, not this. Yeah, during the primary it was, so that was a different kind of a thing. We're also using like the full gyms as opposed to the half gyms that we were using during the primary in most cases. I don't think we're using a half gym in this case, are we? No, we're using the full gyms. So there were a lot of the little partial gym configurations during the primary, and that was a challenge. I appreciate everybody who helped us with that. Okay, so the election gets started, and I guess the way I look at it is there's basically two things that a ballot clerk does. They receive and issue ballots over here, and then every time they receive or issue a ballot, they have to report and account for it. So for those of you who've done it before, this probably is pretty much the same. So we receive the ballots from the moderator. We're going to log how many ballot packs we received from the moderator on line A of our ballot clerk certificate. We receive spoiled ballots from electors. We're going to log the spoiled ballots on line E of the certificate. We receive abandoned ballots. We're going to log them on line F. We issue ballots to electors. We're going to log the ballots that we issue on our tally sheet. I'm going to show you all of these sheets in a minute. And then At the end of the night, we're going to return unused ballots to the moderator. We're going to put those all on line C. And then at the very, very end, we're going to walk through the election, what we call the election reconciliation, which is a 3-point check between the tabulators, the ballot clerks, and the checkers. So, yeah, go ahead.
During the hours of election, where do the spoiled ballots and abandoned ballots stay? On our individual ballot clerk desks, at the moderators?
So, Trinetta, do you hear that question about where the ballot clerk, where the spoiled ballots go? There's an envelope, right, that says spoiled ballots. There's an envelope that says abandoned ballots, right? So when you receive an abandoned ballot, you're going to log it and you're going to put it in the envelope. Okay?
So there's one envelope.
So there's one envelope. There's one, right, there's one envelope for abandoned, one envelope for spoiled. And then you will keep that until the end of the night and you'll hand that over to the moderator. Good question?
To work off of that question, that caused some problems for us last year. If every ballot clerk could have their own set of envelopes, because we combined all of ours, and then we couldn't figure out who made the mistake.
Okay.
So I really urge you to consider that.
I hear you, and we've actually had this discussion. I think we'll probably have this discussion a little bit later, but that may well be the way we end up doing it, because, yeah, go ahead.
And the other thing, when you open up a ballot packet, you count the ballot because.
Yeah, we're going to get to that. Yeah. Absolutely,
Sorry.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, let's get into that level of stuff then. So yeah, before we get into that stuff, let's take a look at the kind of ballot that we're going to be issuing this year. This is a new kind of ballot. We have 14 precincts, 11 unique ballots. There are 10 to 12 contests on each ballot. It's double-sided, and there's roughly 80 candidates on the ballot and 3 questions. A little more complicated than the Democratic primary this year. Now, that doesn't necessarily affect the ballot clerk, right? It could be, as complicated as it needs to be. You're still just handing out, pieces of paper, basically. But I did want to make you aware of a couple things that are slightly different. First of all, the timing marks. We're going to get to how you draw lines through the timing marks when you get a voided ballot, or get a spoiled ballot. The timing marks are on the bottom of this one, and that are these little bumps that stick up down here. In some cases, I think in the old ones, in the old ballots, they were on the side. In this one, they're always on the long end, so it depends on the orientation of the ballot. For this particular election, look for the numbers with the little high mark down here, and those are the things you want to black out. Another thing you might notice, there's a green band at the top of this one. There's a green band only on 2 precincts. And what we were able to do with the new ballot styles is at Nathan Hale and at West Rocks, where we have 2 precincts in the same room, we put a green band on one of the ballots so that they don't get confused. The tabulators won't accept the wrong ones, but it's also to help you in case, let's say you're at West Rocks and an elector comes back to spoil a ballot. Well, which ballot are they spoiling? You can see the green band at the top, so it helps distinguish it. Of course, it says D3 at the top. Of course, the other one that has the green band is C3, but it's just another way to kind of mark it. The band is only on one side. It's only on the front. It's not on the back. And the timing marks are only on the front. So that's the ballot. And yeah, this is our ballot. We've got 2 sides. It's a 17-inch long ballot, and it's chock full of questions for everybody to answer. So yeah, if there's any questions about the ballot itself, we'll just move on. And now here we go with the ballot clerk certificate. There is a copy of this certificate in the package that you received. In the back, there's like 3 or 4 pages, and you should have received it. So anyway, there's a copy of this. we'll walk through, sorry?
No, no.
Oh, you found it, okay. Yeah. We've simplified this since the last election. I think there were some comments that there were all of these questions about how many packages of ballots did you get, how many packages of ballots did you open, how many packages. The bottom line is we really want to know how many ballots did you hand out. So it didn't matter to us how many packages you got, and as it was brought up before, our previous printer would say, here's a package of 100 ballots, and you'd count them and you'd get 99, 102, 98. I think Kim, how many did we had like 107 in one package at one point. I mean, it was really way off, and that throws your numbers way up. So you have to count them anyway. So yeah, we kind of like stripped down all the discussion of packages. Unfortunately, the moderator's guidelines still say we have to ask to know how many packages are being issued, so there's still one line at the top. But we can use hash marks for that. Yeah, go.
Every time you get ballots, you need to sign?
Every time the moderator gives you one? I don't believe so, no.
No?
No. In other words, if they give you one pack of ballots, do you have to sign for the one pack? No.
Okay.
No. I think you're just signing at the end that the data on it is accurate. Yeah, down here. Yeah, you're just signing it at the very end.
That's why.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Sorry.
Matt.
I have a very short-term memory problem, so I can't remember anything. Is there a place I can take notes, like how many packets, and like hash marks? Because if we're counting ballots, and if we're counting packages, and we have to actually also count the number of ballots in the package, I just want somewhere to write down.
So when we redesign this, that's what the first two lines are for. So the first line, and you can't see it very well here. I don't know, maybe we can see it better over here. Is this any better? This is no better at all, is it? Okay, that's not helpful. Yeah, you have a copy of it. Yeah, if you yeah, you found it? Okay.
It's just there's not a lot of room there. If you get
Right.
like 5 packages,
Right.
they all have a different number of ballots.
Right, so you do like 101, comma, 99, comma, 100. I think maybe you'd get 5 packets over the course of a day, so I think they can all fit on that line, and then just put the sum at the end. So I think that was the idea. If you need more space, there's margins and there's space at the bottom. If you need scrap paper, the moderator has scrap paper.
That's why we ask you to write it in pencil. Because you can also put, so when you do tick marks, so you just do 1, comma, 2, 3, 4, 5 packages you receive. So when you do the tick marks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Does that kind of answer the question? Are we good? Okay. So yeah, so that's the, I'm going to go through a little more detail of this in a bit. I just want to sort of work from the top down, make sure that everybody's on the same page here. But yeah, these are all great questions, and we will walk through every line of this in a minute. We're also adding what we call a tally sheet. What we found is that a lot of the ballot clerks, it's easier. You issue a ballot, you put a check on number 1. You issue another ballot, you put a check on number 2. You issue another ballot, you put a check on number 3. At the end of the night, you've got 100 checks on this page, 100 checks on this page. It's very easy to know how many ballots you actually issued. Yeah, you can do all the retro math, but if something went a little wrong, I think someone described what happened if one ballot goes out, but they bring it back and spoil it with a different ballot clerk, you end up in some sort of like weird places where you're missing one. If you have these kind of tally sheets, it's much easier to know, I issued 100 ballots. So we're giving you these tally sheets, and what we found is in practice when ballot clerks use them, they're done faster and their numbers are more accurate. I've never used it myself, but I do see the results. So it seems to be really worthwhile using them. And everybody's interested in being done faster and being more accurate. Yeah. So, yeah. So that's what that's all about. So now maybe kind of get into a little more of the details here. So we're going to receive a package from the moderator. And using the hash marks on line A, we're just going to put, a mark for one, right? Line A of our ballot clerk certificate. We're going to count the actual ballots, and we're going to put that on line 2 or line B, right? One of the questions that I got previously was, so if I'm handing out a ballot, how do I have time to count 100 ballots over here? And how do I have time to return and spoil ballots, over here? And the answer is, you kind of got to weave it all in. So I'll point out the last line first. Before you run out of ballots, make sure the moderator knows you need more, because that way the moderator can come give you another package of ballots, and you can kind of count 10, make a pile of 10, maybe issue give a ballot to an elector, count 10 more, and then you stack it in tens like this. So before you need more ballots, you can kind of get through the counting process. So great. So we count the actual number of ballots. We log the number of ballots on line B. And then one of the points is that we do want to make sure we check the ballots while we're counting them. Check them for defects. This is a new printer that we have this year. So the printer that was off by one every year, they may be spot on this year. We don't know. But we also don't know if there's going to be double prints, light prints. We want to make sure that the ballot's in the right district. For those of you who are in a single district, a single precinct polling location, you may not think you have to check the precinct. Please check the precinct on the ballots, because, again, we don't know about this printer. We think they're very good. They seem to be very good, but it's possible they've got ballots mixed in. So yeah, everything you can do to just sort of check to make sure the ballots are correct. Yes?
If we come across a defective ballot, does it go in the spoiled ballot envelope?
I would bring it up to the moderator immediately, because that
We need to account for it.
you have to account for it depending on where you are. Like if you're just counting them and you go, oh my God, I found 3 already, they may want to just take that whole package. I would bring it up to the moderator. I don't know, Trinetta, do you have any experience when someone actually finds a
If that happens, yes, you bring it up to the moderator put it in the moderator's diary that happened. If it's more than like 3 or 4 or 5, that means that probably the entire packet probably off.
Yeah.
So it's best to get a new packet, and then they'll notify our office, the moderator, let us know that one of the packets are incorrect, and we'll note it on our end as well.
Yeah. Okay, so that's the receiving of the that's a good question, actually. Thank you. Okay, so handing out and monitoring. We're going to issue 1 ballot per elector, and we want to make sure the elector is already checked in. That maybe seems obvious, but I have seen electors try to sneak around a checker. I've seen it happen. They've waited in line, and now they're like waiting, they try to get around. I don't know why, but I've seen it. So please make sure that you're sitting right next to the checker, but it can happen. There's 4 people that have just checked in, they're chatting, whatever it is. Please make sure everybody's checked in, because it will throw your numbers off if they haven't checked in. There's a few points about this ballot. You saw how complicated the ballot was. There's been a lot of discussion about how much we can help an elector with this type of ballot. We can't come off as being as guiding them and telling them to vote in a certain way. We can inform them of the facts to say, thank you for voting. Here's your double-sided ballot. The instructions are on the ballot, but we can't point at a particular contest. We can't say, be sure to look at the other side. I mean, that sounds like a slight difference, but it's just enough that someone would complain that someone is sort of guiding them. And because of the complexity of this, all of the different contests and all of the different questions, it's not unlikely that someone will come to a ballot clerk and say, wow, the tabulator just tore me apart, and he told me every single thing I tried to vote was wrong. Can you help me? You can't, right? Or, you know, what does a constable do? What, you know, like they, and what's the answer for all of this?
We've been asking that for years.
Yeah, you've been asking that for years, right. What is, we have a sheriff? Really? Right, exactly. But they're very likely to ask you questions about the changes to the city charter, or they'll ask somebody, because they're not going to know what this means. And the only answer I can say is, go see the moderator. Go see the moderator will have the entire text of the city charter on their desk. I'm not kidding you, and the moderator will be able to answer all those questions. Our job as ballot clerks is to keep the line moving.
I had a different question.
Sure.
Going back to the checker. On occasion, they've had work with the checker to keep how many they checked in, how many ballots we've given out. And that's kind of been like a nice way to like, no pun intended, check. Okay?
Yeah, you guys can work together, and
Yeah.
sure.
Like,
There's
that's
no,
become a big thing because when the checker when they're off, or you got to find the discrepancies and stuff. So helpful when you have that stuff too.
sure, you can work together. I mean, it's not like a big secret. It's not like we're doing an audit. We're like, you know, we're auditing the checkers and we're auditing the ballot clerks, and let's wait till the end to see who got it wrong. We all want to make it right. So I don't see any reason why that wouldn't happen. I mean, I've certainly seen ballot clerks kind of walk over to the tabulator and go, oh, how many ballots have gone through? You know, I mean, it's displayed right on the tabulator. It's on a big screen. So, yeah, I mean, if that's what makes you feel, if that'll help your numbers come back better and make you be more accurate, as long as it's right, you know, that's great. Okay, so that's the thing about the instructions. We don't want to tell them how to vote, but just say that the instructions are on the ballot. And you can say that it is a double-sided ballot. Again, with the privacy folder, the new moderator's book has some slightly different guidelines. I know in the past we've told everybody, offer the privacy folder and like hold it up, but they don't have to take it. But what we don't want to do is put the ballot in it automatically and then hand the two to them. The new moderator's guidelines are saying that you have to make it available to them. So meaning that if there's a pile of privacy folders in front of you, you can say, oh, and if you'd like a privacy folder. Honestly, I think if someone were to hold it up and hand me, oh, would you like a privacy folder? I'd go, oh, no, thank you, or thank you. It's up to you. The guidelines say you have to make it available to them, so you can point to it on your desk. However you feel best about that. And then, of course, when you do issue a ballot, you mark it on your tally sheet. That really does seem to be the best way to go. And yeah, as I said before, if the elector needs any kind of an explanation, we're going to keep the line moving so that all the folks behind him can get on. Okay, processing a spoiled ballot. On this ballot, there's a pick 2 out of 10, there's a pick 3 out of 12, there's a pick 4 out of 16, and is there a pick 5 on this one, Trinetta? There's not a pick 5? Okay, so I think 4 is the most yet. Someone's going to have to spoil a ballot because the tabulator's going to kick it back to somebody. It didn't happen often in the Democratic primary, but it's going to happen at some point, and they're going to have to spoil a ballot. A spoiled ballot, they're going to come back to you and ask you to replace it. It is an exchange. They have to have a ballot before they get a new one. They'll get one from the same district. They may or may not go to the same ballot clerk. They probably will. I think in practice they usually do, but they don't have to.
We're not allowed to look at the ballot when they give it back to us, other than to verify that it's the same district, right?
You have to verify it's the same district. You have to draw a line through the timing marks. Just thanks for this. So the timing marks at the bottom of the ballot, you have to draw a line through them with magic marker, which will be that magic marker that you need to use will be in your supplies case, and you have to write spoiled on it. And you have to do all of that without looking at what they actually voted for. Yeah, that's
What's the difference between spoiled and void?
right. So there's spoiled and then there's abandoned.
Yeah.
Right, so spoiled is an exchange, right? They've come back and they said, I still have possession. It's like going to the bank and saying, oh, I've got a $10 bill, and you go and you give them 10 singles, you give them change, right? Let me just make sure I get, so we write spoiled on the ballot, we place spoiled in the envelope, And then we put a hash mark on line E of our checkers book down here that says that we've just spoiled a ballot. An abandoned ballot is a ballot where someone just found it. Oh, sorry, did you have a question?
I just want to make sure when you say check the precincts, you just want to make, if they give us the spoiled B3, you want to make sure that I can put back a new B3.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And again, it used to be something that was really unique to Nathan Hale, that there were 2 precincts in the same room. Now that we have 2 locations that have 2 precincts in the same room, it's more common. And for those of you working early voting, you'll know that there's 14 ballots floating around the floor at any moment, 14 different ballot styles. So checking the precinct is just a good thing to get in the habit of. Yeah. So,
Just a question.
sure.
As I recall, in 24, we didn't have to write spoiled on the spoiled ballot. Or at least I did mark
The timing marks, yeah, I think it's also a good accounting practice, because that way you know which ones are spoiled and abandoned.
So, you guys, does it matter where or on what side of the ballot?
I've seen it just written big, like you would write void on a check, you write spoiled, and that way you know why it has the timing marks lined out on it. Okay, and then any other questions about spoiling ballots, or what a spoiled ballot is? Okay. And then abandoned ballots are ballots that are just found somewhere. When I first started this, I was shocked that such a thing as an abandoned ballot even existed. I thought if someone's gone to all the trouble of getting up to the ballot clerks and being issued a ballot, but it happens more than you would think. Abandoned ballots are found in the privacy booths. They're found, by the door. They're found on the floor. They're found all over the place. And the tabulator tenders and the assistant registrars do get up and check the places once in a while to make sure that abandoned ballots haven't been left behind. If someone does bring an abandoned ballot to you, we're going to check the precinct, draw a line through the timing marks, write abandoned on it, place it in the abandoned envelope, and then place a hash mark on line F. There was a question that came up about what makes something abandoned, and it's basically if it's not in the possession of an elector. Right? Like if they drop it for a second, obviously they still have it. But if someone walks up to a tabulator and puts their ballot on the tabulator and runs off before it accepts it, and then the tabulator kicks it back, that's not abandoned. They showed intent by wanting to vote by putting it on the tabulator. Right? So abandoned is they left it somewhere. Right? So they could walk by the tabulator and drop it on the way out, and you go, oh, well, we don't know if they wanted them to vote. But if it hits the tabulator, then there's intent to vote.
We had a situation
Sure.
during the primary where someone completed the ballot incorrectly, and they fed it into the tabulator, and they were in a big rush to get out the door. And so we had a marked ballot that wasn't registered. What do you call that?
Okay, so they hit the tabulator. So what would happen is the tabulator tender would put that in the auxiliary bin. At the end of the night, the moderator takes it out and tries to feed it back through the tabulator. If the tabulator can read it, meaning, let's say there's an overvote. Tabulators can read overvotes, they'll just ignore that portion of it. It'll take it in. If it cannot read it, then it's up to the moderator to hand count it. And there's a whole process we go through with the moderators, making sure that they would hand count every single vote on there, that they could determine voter intent. But yeah, if it hits the tabulator, it's got to be accounted for as a...
So the moderator is going to take control of that ballot?
The moderator is going to take control of that at the end of the night, yeah. Do you have a question? No.
Can you have it where somebody, having it be, spoiled and then they're gone? Meaning like, if they don't get another, like in there, like you get there in a hurry and it gets spoiled, but they're not there to get the new ballot. Has that ever happened?
I'm not aware of that, where somebody says, I want to spoil this ballot, and then look, while you're doing the exchange, their phone rings and they run out?
They put it in there and it came back spoiled and they were already gone. Has
You mean when the tabulator kicks it back? Yeah, it's not spoiled.
Oh, not?
No. So it's not spoiled until, because let's say I overvote, right? It's a vote 3 kind of a thing, or vote 3, and I voted 4, right? I put it in the tabulator and it'll say, hey, you've overvoted on this particular contest. Would you like the ballot back so that you can spoil it if you want to, or do you want to submit it as is? The elector has the option of saying, I'm going to submit it as is and leave, right? So they could do that. They can submit a blank ballot or an overvoted ballot. And and I guess, the example we just talked about was kind of the same thing, where the elector kind of puts it on the tabulator and runs off. The intent is to submit that ballot as is, and you can determine that by the fact that it hit the tabulator. At least that's the standard for now. Yeah, so it isn't spoiled until the elector decides to come back and give it to the ballot clerk and say, I want a new one, and do that exchange. Then that's a spoiled ballot, and they have a fresh one that they can go fill out again. Good, thank you. Yeah?
To me, the big take home from this is if it's anything out of the ordinary, moderator,
Yep.
careful,
Yep.
well, but that's the right thing to do, and it makes us feel less pressured because they're trained to do that.
Exactly. I mean, as I was thinking through, this afternoon while I was putting the presentation together, I'm thinking about all the little details that a ballot clerk has to go through, all of the counting of these piles and issuing these piles and filling out these forms, and it's basically, your checker's certificate's basically an IRS form, right? I mean, it kind of reminded me of one of those like 1040s where you have to fill out all the A, B, C, D, E, F. I mean, you have enough to do. You don't need to try and sort out whether this ballot should be counted or not, but the spoiling of it is where we can get into it. So that's our job. So yeah, thank you. Anything else? Okay. Whoops. Okay, so closing the polls. Here. We're going to complete the ballot clerk certificate, which is this lovely document here. We have simplified it, as I mentioned before. We've taken like 2 or 3 lines off the top. The first line is a list of hash marks for how many packages you got. Oh yeah, something else I forgot to mention. Not all the packages used to have 100 in them, but at least there was an intent to all have 100. Now we just get packages of 25 and 50. So that's why we're really not using packages much anymore. So, yeah. And we don't know that they'll really have 25 or 50, but we are very curious, especially after we get these results back from all of you, as to whether they actually have 100 or 25 or 50 in them. Yeah?
At the primary, there was an open package of ballots.
I'm going to get to that. I'm going to get to that. Yeah, it's a great question, and we heard that from every ballot clerk out there, and we want to make sure that we covered that today. It's line H, so we'll get to that. So yeah, okay, but starting at the top. So put a hash mark for each package we get. Doesn't matter how many are in the package. If we get a package, we put a hash mark for the package. Line B, we're going to count everything that's in the package. We'll say 100, 99, 100, whatever it happens to be. And then we'll put our totals at the end for the moderator on the next step. So line C is how many you have left over at the end of the night. So you've counted out 100 ballots, but you have 36 left over, right? So you're going to write 36 down there. The number of ballots issued during the election should be just some pretty simple, B minus C kind of math. The number of spoiled ballots you've been keeping track of as they've been getting spoiled. So that's line E, and F is the same thing with the number of abandoned ballots. And here's where we get into some of the more interesting stuff to answer your question. Leftover early voting ballots. The registrar, at the registrar's discretion, they can take remaining packages or remaining loose ballots and issue them to the sites because they need to use them up or whatever they need to do. So in this case, you would put those leftover, that pack of 12 or 14 or 62 or whatever it is, on line G. And then, of course, if you knew you had some of those left over, you could also mark on line H that you had a couple of those specifically left over.
How do we know the difference between a packet given to us by a moderator at the beginning and a packet given to us that's leftover early voting?
If it's a packet, the moderator gave it to you. If there's just loose ballots, then the loose ballots are going to end up on line G.
But who gave it to us?
The moderator will give them all to you. Right, so line G is really just for like,
And they're not wrapped or sealed?
they're not wrapped, they're not sealed, they're just out.
So the packages that are closed are all line A.
Yeah, yeah, right. Yeah, yeah.
Between G and H, I'm still stuck.
Yeah.
So G is, there was a 12 ballots left over from somewhere. You don't even know where they are. They showed, the moderator says, hey, look, on top of all these, I found these 12 ballots. The registrar issued them to us. They were behind tamper evidence seal. I got 12 ballots. You go, okay, I got 12 ballots that weren't in a package, so I'm going to put 12 on G.
So is that only at the beginning of the day, Matt? Is that only at 6 a.m. or it could be any time?
So that's a great question. Most likely it would happen at the beginning of the day.
99.9%.
But there are all sorts of, I'll say, disaster scenarios that we work through where something occurs that's really awful and we have to run ballots out to some site. The ballots in the box were not labeled correctly and you're in A1, but you got all A3 ballots. You know, something awful like this happens, right? And we're always thinking through, like, how would we recover from that sort of thing? We keep a certain amount of ballots at City Hall in case, like, the shipping container falls into the river, you know, on the way to Election Day. We still have enough to open the polls. If for some reason something happens and there's a huge influx of electors and we're suddenly getting really like close, it's 7 o'clock and you're starting to run out of ballots, we may rush more over to you late in the day. So it may happen late in the day.
So then what is H for?
Okay, so H is what you would have left over from those issued. If you knew you were issued 12, but you only used 2 of them.
So that's at the end of the night?
That's at the end of the night, yeah. Okay, and now just to make it a little, go ahead.
Now, it's going back to line B as in boy.
Yes.
So if we get 3 packages, you're looking for 3 numbers.
Yes. Yep. Probably 100, 100, 100. Yeah. Okay. So now just to make things a little more complicated, but to follow up on the disaster scenario, there's this topic of emergency ballots. I don't know if Norwalk's ever had to use emergency ballots. Trinetta, do you know if we've ever had to use emergency ballots? Not since you've been around? Emergency ballots are like really literally just, they're emergency ballots. They are, the printer didn't get us our ballots on time, the blue shipping container fell off into the river and we don't have any ballots. And there's no way the printer's going to get us ballots in time. So we're going to bring you 100 ballots and we're going to start copying ballots. They're not going to go through the tabulator, but you still have to account for them. So we would bring you a stack of these photocopied, and we're going to have to end up hand counting them.
Put in the bucket?
Yeah, I mean, these are the kinds of things we leave on here. Just we hope you'll never ever have to use that section, but the reality is you could, so we leave that there. So yeah, emergency ballots are the same thing. If you were issued any, you would say how many were issued and then how many were left over from emergency ballot.
Thank you again. Even though it's called early voting ballot, and it's not election day, just ignore the fact that it's early voting ballot. Okay, that is for purposes of either early voting or election day, right? Is that the idea? Because early voting would imply that this is being used during early voting, not on election day, but they're being used on election day, correct?
They're being used on election day.
Correct.
Technically speaking, like if you were to get into, maybe it's a little too deep, but the tabulators, when we program them, we program them for absentee ballots, which are different. The timing marks on the bottom are different. The timing marks on an early voting ballot and the timing marks on an election day ballot are the same.
Okay.
So those are the ones we could bring to you in the case of an emergency,
Okay.
right? At some point when we're able to do it differently, we'll probably have a different set of timing marks for same-day registration. You know, so
Yeah, so on election day, you guys, it could end up that I could have early voting ballots.
think of them as loose ballots.
Loose ballots.
They're just loose ballots. Yeah.
Okay,
Just
I'm trying to,
yeah. The fact that they're early voting ballots isn't.
okay.
Yeah, the fact that they're early voting ballots is not as important as that they're loose. And they're not in a pack. Yeah, okay, so at the very end of the day, we're going to sign this. Are there any other questions about this? Do people feel comfortable about filling this out and they understand what each line item is?
Will we be checking with our checker to make sure their number is the same as the tabulator, is the same as the ballot clerk?
I'm going to walk through that in a second. The answer is the moderator is going to do that. That's not to say, as discussed before, you can't kind of ask your checker, hey, how many do you have? Because you might want to check, we obviously want to be fair and honest. We want to understand where, if something is missing, we want to know about it as early as possible. But yeah, you can check. I mean, you can walk by the tabulator and look at the big number on it that says, here's how many ballots were cast. If it's slow, there's no one walking around, that might help you. So, okay, whoop. Where are we? Okay, so this is, I'm going to use the term election reconciliation, which is exactly what you just described. It's a 3-point check that checks the checker numbers against the ballot clerk numbers against the tabulator. And the moderator very much wants all of those numbers to be exactly the same. City Hall wants all of those numbers to be exactly the same. So we want them to be exactly the same. And all of what we've talked about so far up until now is trying to get them to make sure that they'll be exactly the same. Things happened, but you may notice that this is from the moderator's book. It has the exact same lines that you had in your checkers certificate, right? So A through M. It's the exact same phraseology, it's the exact same terms, it's the exact same numbers. The only difference is they've got 3 different lines here. So if you've got 3 ballot clerks, they're going to copy your numbers into these columns, and they're going to add them all up. And that is how many ballots you've actually used in the course of a day. And then they'll compare that to the tabulator and the checkers numbers. Okay? You do have to sign this, but you don't have to, know too much about it, other than it's basically exactly what you give them. And so I've just included this here because a lot of times people go, why am I doing all this work? Why am I accounting for all these little things? This is a state-required document. So this is the sort of like the end of the game, the end of the day. Like if we can get to this document, like we can all go, whew, then we can go get a slice of pizza. So yeah, I just put this here just so you guys see kind of what the end game is for the ballot clerks. And then when we're all said and done, we've handed in our checkers certificate. Our moderator is going to start the reconciliation. They're going to start doing all the math, checking the checkers numbers, the ballot clerks numbers. They're going to get all those long tapes from the tabulator. They're going to have to pull memory sticks out of the tabulator. The thing is, we can't leave until the moderator has allowed us to leave, because they could have a question. They could be off by a couple of ballots. There could be an issue with the checkers numbers. The tabulator could be a little off, or it could be something, so we can't really leave. So while you're kind of waiting for the moderator to clean up, if I could just ask you guys to help pack up the site. chains need breaking down, there's all the technology that needs to go into its yellow case. There is technology support to help with that, but it's pretty straightforward. The tabulators, once they're done with it, they need to be picked up and put in the blue cabinet. Signs all need to be broken down and put in brown boxes. In the blue cabinet, there's pictures of how everything goes in the blue cabinets. So the more you can do to help out, just the easier it'll be. The big triple booth that stands there with the sample ballot on it, and I think it's also going to have the charter changes on it. It just folds up and gets put in a bag. I mean, any little thing you guys can do to help out would really be very useful. Yeah, after the last election, we got some blue cabinets back in some very interesting configurations. There were things in the blue cabinet that I didn't know fit in the blue cabinet. And there weren't things in the blue cabinet that really should have been in the blue cabinet, to the point where we had to send the our DPW people back to the schools to find stuff. And that's really something we're trying to avoid. So anything you guys can do to help us get everything comes in the blue cabinet except for the privacy booths and the IVS machines, so everything should make it back into the blue cabinet except for the privacy booths and the IVS machine. Oh, sorry? Right, if you open the blue cabinet, there's a photo of how it should look packed up. So where the yellow bin goes here, the green bin goes here, the brown bin goes here, the tabulator goes on the left, the batteries go here, the chains go here. You can see it all with a couple of pictures. So the more you can help out, it's really just me pleading for help, because I really don't like it when somebody says, you know that black washing machine? And I go, yeah, the tabulator. They go, yeah, were we supposed to pick that up? You go, yeah, you kind of were. But it wasn't DPW's fault, because it wasn't supposed to be outside the blue cabinet. So, yeah, when Tyler comes to me, he goes, we're missing three, I think it was 2 different locations full of technology because it didn't get put away. Help us out a little, please. So it's me begging for your help. Thank you.
I didn't want to interrupt
No.
the back. What do we do with the tally sheets? Do we do that?
You hand them back to the moderator. Yeah, they'll all go in the moderator's bag, and yes.
During the primary, I think the moderator had a report 3 or 4 times during the day on the counts. Are they going to do that for regular election?
Yep. Yeah, and all they're doing is reading off the counts from the tabulator. So they won't come and do a complete audit, I think. They're not doing a complete audit. They just get the numbers off the tabulator, right? Yeah, and you give them to Tyler, I think he'll be the one bugging you for those. Or he won't be bugging you because you're ballot clerks, but not at 8 o'clock.
What happens if people can't come inside to vote?
If people can't come inside to vote. Oh, okay, so curbside. So what we're doing this year, and this worked pretty well during the primary, is we have a sign outside that says, if you need curbside assistance, call this number. Every moderator has a city-issued cell phone, and the number on the sign out front rings on their cell phone. So they use the cell phone for a lot of different things throughout the day, but that's one of them. It worked very well, and then the moderator will work with the assistant registrars and staff the people to go out and help them with the clipboard and all that.
They bring the ballot outside?
And bring the ballot. They bring everything they need to bring the ballot out there, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. The whole curbside thing gets done. We at one point were thinking of putting cameras out there and trying to put Ring doorbells, and it was way too confusing. We think that cell phone, much easier. And people can still come in if they have a driver or something and say, hey, I want somebody to come out. That's fine too. But curbside's generally initiated by the moderator, and then the assistant registrars, fulfill it.
Who brings the ballot outside? One person or got 2 people?
You need 2 people. Yeah, you need 2 people. It's the assistant registrars that are responsible for it.
Witness.
They can assign other people if they're super busy, but there usually is 1 person from each party. So, good question. Thanks. Anything else? Yes.
On the tally sheet. So you give someone their ballot, check.
Yep.
And then they bring it back to you spoiled, you give them another check off the next number.
Yes.
No,
Yes,
Yes,
there's,
because then at the end you subtract
Ye-
out.
Because at the end of the night, you're going to subtract, and when they ask you how many spoiled or abandoned ballots, you'll have that record.
great question. I'm glad Trinetta was here. You always need an expert in the back, right? Okay, any other questions?
yeah, so that sheet you're gonna have, gonna be multiple sheet?
Yeah, yeah, I just gave you one. And what's nice about those sheets is if you go to take a restroom break or a lunch break or something like that, the person who takes your place can just work on another sheet. So it's not like your numbers are interspersed with theirs. You know that's their sheet and this is my sheet, and you know, oh, okay, they issued 12 ballots, now I can go count. You know, it's a little bit better. This group of people tend to be accountant-minded, so I think so. No? You're not? You're in the wrong group? I'm a computer science guy. I don't know what I'm doing here either. Okay, any other, yeah, sure.